up by Samuel with the idea to unite initially Nigerians, but now the entire Africans with the idea that we can do more together, believe in that unity, which is the same idea Lantern was born out of, to take out of the Pan-African MBA experience between internships and after internships, in order to be able to learn more from those who had gone ahead earlier. I think I've forgotten who said it. I see further because I stood on the back of giants. And what we believe Lantern would do for us is to give us the opportunity to see further than where our fathers saw, and also the ability to be able to create opportunities for those behind us. So we really, really do thank you for the sacrifice of your time. There really is no price that can be put at it, but the fact that you're doing it out of the goodness of your heart speaks a great deal. Thank you so much for making our time to speak with us today and to give us the opportunity to stand on your shoulders. I don't know if Sam has any other thing to say while we wait for others.
Yeah, Isu, thank you very much. Although I've just been privileged to be at the arms of affairs, that definitely a lot of people have made this successful, including yourself and a couple of people who are on this call that I would mention: Uzana, Ahmed, Franklin, Olamide, and many more people. I've only decided to call people who are on this call, but I could go on, and that list could grow really big. Right now, what we're trying to do is just increase Africa's representation in global MBA programs. And the reason why we're doing that is, first of all, it's a continent of 1.3 billion people. And if you compare that to other locations with that same amount of population, that numbers don't match up. The representation versus the population don't match up. And there's some level of correlation between that and development across where they're coming from. So you find that the more countries are able to put their citizens, or the more continents are able to, the more a continent is able to push their citizens into roles through this program, the more that continent is able to develop. And we're hoping that we can develop that group of people truly. So all that is just to build an economically and politically inclusive Africa that is self-perpetuating. What I'm most excited about is our aims and objective, how we intend to reach that vision. First of all, we're hoping to empower young Africans by supporting 1,000 Africans into top 150 MBA programs in 7 years. We know that is ambitious, but we believe that the more people are able to get jobs, get access to greater opportunities after going into an MBA, the more they're able to support other people from their community to do the same. The second thing is we want to strengthen existing communal connection among African MBA programs by connecting many African business clubs across board. And hopefully in 5 years, we're able to do that so that the voice is unanimous to many of these MBA programs, including those ones back home in the continent. The third one is to be a catalyst for Africa's financial independence, which is why Lantern came into light, by providing our current members with access to top recruiters, opportunities that improves their chances of getting jobs, and eventually leading them to be financially independent to contribute to the continent. The fourth is just to bridge that gap between quality MBA education in wherever they are and talented Africans here in Africa. And one of the ways we're doing that is just MBA for Africa program, where we bring in admission officers to just enlighten our members in some of the specific things they're looking for in an application. The last one is to start to remind people that you don't have to be a lawyer, a doctor, or an engineer. That's not the only career path. You know, the master's and PhD is not the only way out or it's not the next level of progression. And MBA is equally a valid route to go. And by doing that, by encouraging people right from their university days, it allows people start to create that path, do the right things they need to do, take JERA as early as possible, take on roles that they can put on their resume and put them, make them have a better chance of not just getting admission, but equally funding. So that's what we're hoping to do in 5 minutes. But and all of all that comes down to our guiding principle: selfless people welcome. We want diversity. We want people who are creative. We want to be inclusive in all of our approach, and we want to make sure that each member understands accountability, not just to themselves, but to the community they come from. And that's who we are generally, but specifically today, it's all about Lantern, led by Lantern, led by my colleague Yusuf. And thank you to Nu and Rosalind for joining us today, and we hope to have a wonderful session. Over to you, Yusuf.
Well, thank you for the speech, Samuel. Thank you so much for this. We want to get started. I would want to know, Rosalind, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. We're about to start, but I would want to go from the very beginning. Like I said initially, thank you so much for your time. And the very first listen, I would love if we could have a brief introduction from Itunu and then Rosalind.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Itunu. I'm based in Dallas, Fort Worth area. That's where I'm calling from.
Hi, Itunu, your mic is up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hello. Oh, apologies. So, do you hear me clearly now? Is it better now?
Yeah.
Okay, so hi, my name is Itunu, based in Dallas, Fort Worth area. So I'm originally from Ibadan, Nigeria. Shout out to Ibadan folks on the call today. So, yes. Hey, I want a mini Ibadan. So, so I studied veterinary medicine from the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, finished in 2021, but 2011, I mean, this is about 10 years ago. So proud to completing my undergrad. I just realized that I was drawn to the business side of veterinary practice more than the, the medical aspect, right? And so, I knew that was a career route I wanted to pursue. So after undergrad, I joined a pharmacy startup in Ibadan, Nigeria, to study a veterinary business. Within about 14 months, took it to about 20% of the top line for the business. And, that early success gave me a lot of confidence to pursue bigger opportunities within the business space, right? And so, and then I left veterinary practice and then did a pivot to commercial banking in Nigeria, worked with First Bank, started from operations, then moved to retail banking. Then I think about 2017, a new MD joined the bank, and there was a strategic transformation. And then, I just realized that we had all these strategic goals and strategic intent, but I didn't see it translate into what I do on day-to-day basis, right? So, that kind of piqued my interest in business strategy, and then one thing led to the other. I learned about the MBA, yeah, and so so I decided to come for the MBA, focus in finance and strategy. I completed my MBA 2 months ago from Vanderbilt University, and I currently work for American Airlines within their global sales and marketing division. I'm happy to be on this call. Yeah.
Thank you, Itunu. Rosalind, I think brief.
Hi guys. Yeah, so I'm Rosalind. If I'm looking different from the poster, it's because I have a haircut. So sorry about that. Well, not sorry. I am originally from Ghana. I came to the US about 2 years ago for my MBA at Simon Business School. But before then, of course, I graduated from my undergrad program with a degree in sociology. And after that, I went to the bank I joined the bank as a management trainee and did some work around operations and also business development, which is just sales. And so for me, I always knew that business was what I wanted to be in, or an area I wanted to be strongly aligned with. And after having that experience and feeling like, I mean, I definitely got a difficult start, because when you're in sales, you have to build up your budget and your portfolio and all of that. Those are all tough starts, but I found my footing. I started converting businesses and achieving my targets. But then as I did that as well, I realized that I had also gotten to the ceiling of my learning. I was looking for new challenges, and then I just didn't have that in my job, which is what led me to business school. And I enrolled in business school without knowing which particular industry I even wanted to recruit in, or which specialization I wanted to end up with. But then it took me some time to find my way, and I eventually decided that I would focus on the tech industry as my area of interest, because technology, as we know it, is the biggest accelerator of change. And with my desire to make impact, I knew for sure that I can be able to do that with technology. The skill to do that would be large. I eventually graduated from Simon with a specialization in product management and operations. I did my internship last summer at PayPal as a program manager, and I just started work 2 weeks ago at ServiceNow as a business strategy and operations manager. I feel like I'm getting my butt kicked, but hopefully I'll find my way again like I always do. So I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you so much for the brief history. You said something about strategy in your role, Rosalie. Especially, I know ServiceNow, it's in the service area of tech. How were you able to position yourself for that?
Okay, so strategy in most companies is like internal strategy, right? And like I was saying, my specialization is in product. So I was actually recruiting for product roles, and I recruited for a product role in ServiceNow. But then I didn't get the job, but he thought, oh, I think you'd be a great fit for our strategy team that supports our product team. And I eventually got that position. The way I positioned myself for the job was, I think I focused, usually when you're recruiting, some of the mistakes we make early when we're in the process is we don't pay attention to the job requirements. We just go with our resumes as they are, and then we do blind applications. But if there's a job that is really, really on top of list or for you, or is on top of mind for you, you want to put in the extra step of carefully going through the job requirements and trying to see if your resume bullet points have a bit of alignment with what they're looking for, because that's the first thing they look at when they want to consider you. So if there's a disjoint between the candidates, the ideal candidates they're looking for, and then what you're presenting in terms of your resume, you might not get through the first step of having an interview. So resume aspect is one bit of it, but another bit of it is also just trying to network and participate in the company's recruiting events as much as possible to get face time and just have someone you can have a conversation with about your interests. So I'm not sure if I answered your question in totality, but like those are some of the things that I did.
Thank you, Rosalie. You hit on something. We'll get back to that in a few. Itunu, I know you're also in the service area with American Airlines, moving people. But how were you able to do that, how were you able to convince American Airlines that what you had done in banking could be transferred into the service sector?
Oh, that's a great question,
yeah.
Yusuf. So, I mean, for me, I think one of the gifts of the last 2 years for me is the fact that I've been able to do a lot of introspection, right? Being able to really think about, what I've done in my past and, what course I want to chart for my career. And so, I mean, when I started thinking about American Airlines, what I just kind of did was to really look at my background and try to bring up some alignment between my experience in banking and then, the airline industry. And one of the things I came to realize is that fundamentally, those two industries are really customer oriented industries, right? I mean, banking, we're trying to help people with financial services, banking products, and stuff like that. And when you look at the airline industry, what we are doing basically is to move people from point A to point B, right? And so both industries are customer-oriented industry. And so, I mean, during my conversations with people at American Airlines, I was just trying to let them know, look, I have worked in a customer-oriented environment before, and it's something I enjoy doing. It's an environment I thrive in, and so I see myself doing that and more for your organization, right? And secondly, again, it was about just looking at, the architecture of the industry. I mean, you in banking in Nigeria, it's a really competitive landscape, right? Every day we're fighting for deposits, you're fighting for, to create risky asset for our customers. It's a really competitive industry. You're right. And so when you look at the airline industry in the US, it mirrors what you see back in Nigeria. Every day we are fighting with our computers to get people on our flight. And for someone like me, I thrive in a competitive environment. And so for me, I like, okay, this is an environment I feel like I can bring my best self every day, because every day I'm fighting for something. Every day we're trying to get people to fly us and not our competitors, right? And so that those are some of the things that were top of mind for me in my conversations with American Airlines. So I would say that, I mean, as you want to try to convince anybody, whether you're trying to break into tech or whatever industry you're trying to pivot in, it's about just looking into your past and try to see what have you done before that you can take forward. What's the resemblance? What are the parallels you can draw from your past experiences and and into whatever career you're going into. Then I also say lastly that get involved with our industry, right? I mean, show excitement about it, deep dive and read more research about the industry. I mean, and be able to show that, be able to come into the interview, be able to come in networking sessions, with really deep questions, and then to show that this is something you're really excited about. I mean, that was more like my home positioning for me. Yeah.
Thank you. You and Rosalind have both hit on networking. We'll go down there. We'll try that part very soon. But your role reads corporate commercial strategy.
Correct.
Now, how does one prepare for a position like that, for a role like that? How do you position yourself? Uh, Given that you're leaving the MBA program, we'll be leaving the MBA program or be hoping to intern. How do we position ourselves as candidates for such role?
Okay, that's a good question. I would say for me, when I was coming to business school, right, it was really focused on what role or what functional area I was excited about more than the industry or or the company itself, right? And so because I knew that strategy was something that excited me, right? And so I was just really looking for across board, across industries, where I can, target strategy roles. And like I said, the way you position yourself, number one, is to first and foremost come up with a list of companies that recruit for the kind of roles that you want, right? And then when you have like a list you're working with, and based off that list, you want to begin to then talk to people who work within those organizations, who work within those type of roles, to understand what do you do on a day-to-day basis, what type of projects do you do, what type of visibility do you get from this role, right? And that kind of gives an idea of what you need to begin to prepare to do. Then they will tell you, okay, this is the kind of projects we work on, these are the kind of tools we use, these are the kind of these are the kind of engagement you have. And based off that, now begin to now look at your experiences. Have you done something like that before? Have you led a project like that before? For example, in my role at American Airlines, which is a strategy role, what I am focused on is revenue generation. How do we increase revenue? How do we how do we develop new product, new travel product, and how do we enhance customer experience? Those are the three pillars I'm focused on, right? And so for me, I've worked in a customer facing role before at First Bank. I mean, I've interacted with customers. And so just looking at that, what I've done in First Bank, I'm like, okay, yes, I've been in the customer facing role before and know how to identify the needs of customers and know how to research, trying to understand the dynamics and what the customer is looking for within an organization, and then trying to bring that into the customer experience side of the strategy role I'm doing at American Airlines. Another piece is revenue generation, right? I've been in revenue. I've been in retail banking. Every day we're trying to create assets to generate revenue. We're trying to mobilize deposits. I understand revenue generation. How does that fit it into American Airlines revenue generation strategy? So it goes back to taking a lot of time. We feel like we have not done so much in your experience, but when you take a step back and really reflect on what you have done, you will see that a lot of the roles you are looking for in strategy, you will have done something that that really position you. You have some experience in your background that you can leverage on, and you can translate in whatever new role you're trying to get into. Yeah, maybe Roslyn has a comment or two to add.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything Itsuno has said. So I think it's really important to make sure you take like a stock of what you've done in the past. And of course, if you've not documented it as you've had your experience, which is not something many of us do, it's not something you remember. But like as you continue to speak to people and get an understanding of what you're doing, the problems you're solving, it also brings you to recall what you've also done regarding things like that. Because strategy is basically problem solving, anyways. So think about what kind of problems you've solved in the past and how you can make that point a very concrete point to resonate with the people you're speaking with. And also to just support what you've also said regarding position yourself for the service industry, it's all about finding an alignment. Like when you think about it, you find it. For me personally, and in ServiceNow and getting that job in ServiceNow, what they really, really hang on was my experience at PayPal. And they went on about that. I started work 2 weeks ago, like I mentioned earlier on. And then the first two projects I've been given are projects I added, things I did during my internship. So you might think that the same problems are not happening across industries or across organizations. Sometimes they're similar, sometimes they're different, but it's quite easy to still find the similarity between the problems you've solved and then what you're going to be facing. So bringing those skills and transferring them to your new role is really, really important. And to add on to that as well, like internal strategy this is just something I'm also learning as well. I've spoken to people and they're telling me that sometimes you end up engaging with people 4 levels above you. And these are people you have to go to and tell them how to do stuff. They are senior to you 4 levels. The way you're able to do that is to know what you're talking about, like really, really have a good understanding, sound like an expert, and also be very confident and have conviction about what you're saying. It's the only way you're going to get buy-in. If you're intimidated as a strategy, if you're recruiting for strategy and you sound nervous or you're a bit intimidated by what you're saying, I mean, you're not presenting yourself in the proper way. So that's what I also say to support that.
Thank you guys for
Excellent point, Roslyn. And even in your interviewing process, I mean, for American Airlines, you'll be talking to MDs and VPs. So so just like Roslyn said, you want to come into the room, you want to own the conversation. I mean, you know your stuff, you know your experience, you know what you have done, right? And just be able to talk about it. Nobody knows your experience as much as you do, right? And so don't be intimidated, don't be nervous. Just go in there, own your experience. If a question comes up and you feel like you don't know it, I mean, don't be shy to say, okay, this is not an area of strength for you. But whatever you think you're good at, whatever your story is, just go in there and say that as it is, without fear, for anybody. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you guys for these words of wisdom. But I'll come back to you, Rosalie. You said something about networking when we started. What is the best networking technique? We'll say, in your experience, what you have seen, what you've heard, what you've learned over the course of these 2 years. What do you see as the best networking experience, both to get an internship with PayPal and to get a full-time offer with ServiceNow?
Okay. So I don't like networking, and most people I speak to don't like it as well, because it just feels forced, and we all know what your intentions are. You want a job, so why do you have to suck up to me to get a job? It's just kind of weird. But like, it's important to become very comfortable to network. And I think the way I try to deal with that in my head was to treat networking like establishing friendships. Like, if I'm trying to build a friendship with you, if good things happen, if I benefit from our relationship, it's a consequence of it. If I don't benefit from it, it doesn't mean I'm going to start hating you. And if you think about networking in the sense that you're building friendship with someone, you don't feel like you're only speaking to them to get something from them. So that's the fundamental aspects of dealing with networking to begin. So, and then speaking about what I've observed about networking, I didn't do networking when I was doing internships because the rules are there, MBA, blah, you apply that. So it's quite different when you're recruiting for internship, but full-time, it's even hard to spot the roles and know which one is like an experienced hire job posting and which one is a recent MBA grad job posting, especially if it doesn't reside on your school's recruiting platform. So what I did and what I saw was Clubhouse. We were just getting into the Clubhouse craze. And I got onto Clubhouse, and I noticed that there were these recruiting rooms where recruiters would come and talk about the open roles they were hiring for. And I participated in some of those rooms. I never got up to speak about the fact that, hey, this is my pitch and this is what I'm interested in, but I always used to listen, and then I would take down the names of these folks and try to reach out to them and see if I could get maybe 5 minutes of their time to just talk. Then, as besides that, too, there are all these third-party organizations that do maybe not for profit or for profit, and then they have job postings and all of that, and they have recruiting events and where they invite companies to come and talk about their university program hiring and things like that. I attended those things, and I wouldn't speak, I wouldn't engage, because I don't like to, I'm not a very public person, so I don't engage. But then I always make sure that I pick something from those conversations, and then I try to reach out to those people one-on-one and then say, hey, at least I have something to touch base with them on, because I've had them say something, I'm like, what you really said resonated with me, and I really like the fact, it shows that you've been paying attention, and everybody likes the fact that when they speak, they're heard. So that's how I've observed networking for myself and how I've practicalized it. And all I'll say is, if you don't like it, think of it like a friendship, and then make sure that you're listening to people, reading about them before you reach out to them. Maybe they've posted articles on Medium or LinkedIn. Just find something that you can connect with them with and let them feel like you're being heard. And when you network as well, also try to find out how you can be of help to them. Like, ask them what they're interested in, what topics are they more drawn to. That way, when you find articles on those topics that are really drawn to, you can share with them. So it becomes like a two-way benefit, like it's a mutually beneficial engagement. You're not just the one taking from them, but you're also offering them things that will be of interest to them. And it's more like a thought partnership arrangement, you know?
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. It's to know, was your experience any different, or do you have different strategies?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree with everything Roslyn has said. You know, for us in Nigeria, I mean, when we apply for roles, you just maybe you open a newspaper or you go to what's the name, like jobberman.com. You just apply for those jobs, right? And then you just sit there and wait for interview. But I mean, from the MBA, from my experience with the MBA, recruiting here generally in the US, it's really about it's a proactive process. You need to put yourself forward. You need to speak to people. And what I've also come to realize is they don't just bring anybody into their company. They want to hire for fit. They want to hire for, will you fit into our culture? Like, would you be able to, will you be able to get along with us? Those are kind of the things they are trying to look out for when they hire people, not just your intelligence or, expertise alone. So, and that's why networking comes into play, right? And so for me, the moment I came in, I guess, I've been talking to people even through the MBA journey, through the MBA application process. I've really been, reaching out to people on LinkedIn. And I would say LinkedIn is a really powerful tool for networking. LinkedIn has been at the center of my networking strategy, right? Whether it even for alums of my program or people, or maybe just people that I want to connect with in the industry who I don't have a direct connection with, right? LinkedIn has been a center part of my networking strategy. What I'll just tell people is this, like Roslyn said, networking is a two-way street, right? They are giving them their time to learn about their industry or their role or whatever. You are also, coming into to learn about it. And then eventually, if you come to think about it, eventually you're going to get a job somewhere, right? And so you may end up becoming colleagues. You may end up getting into a role or a company that the person you're talking with to might want to come to tomorrow, right? And so that is just the way to think about it. So it's a value creation process on both sides. It might appear like you're looking for a job today, but tomorrow you're gonna get a job. You're gonna, you are gonna be of value to that person down the road too. So that is the mindset I kind of take into the process. And so for me, a few things I would just say is that number one, when you're networking with people, um, go prepared. I mean, I've done networking and I've seen people show up for networking sessions or coffee chats without being prepared. It's a waste of everybody's time, right? Before you go for a networking call, if it's a publicly traded company, just go read their recent 10K reports, listen to their recent earnings calls to get a grasp of where they has the organization, what is their strategic direction, right? And then come up with a 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5 questions you want to actually ask the person, because I've been in, like I said, I've been in a networking session, like a joint networking session, and I was just like the only person who was asking the guy questions. Other people were just looking, right? It just showed that people were not, for whatever reason, maybe they were not interested or they were not prepared. So make sure you have questions. Don't just go there and want to wing it. It doesn't, it reflects badly on you. Number two is the fact that, again, make sure you show up on time. I've seen people, coming late to networking sessions. You know, it's rude, it's disrespectful, it speaks bad of you, of yourself and your school and everything you represent. So make sure you very punctual at your networking session. And then after talking to somebody, maybe, asking for referrals and anything, you need to be very, you need to be very conscious of the conversation. You might be talking to somebody and they might look like they're not interested in talking to you. Fine. Have that you know that that's not a person you want to ask for a referral for whatever, because they don't seem to, maybe flow well with you, right? So you also need to be very careful. And then lastly, I also say something about, sending thank you notes and follow up. You make sure that somebody has given you 30 minutes or 1 hour of their time. I mean, it's valuable to them. They could be sleeping or resting. Send a thank you note. It does about 2 or 3 things for you. Number one, it shows that you value their time. It also helps you to, make them remember you. again, right? You could just say, thank you for speaking to me. I appreciate you talking about this, and that. I was excited to hear about this, and that you're working on. I'll be in touch, right? It helps you to keep it at the top of your mind. And if you have a conversation and tell the person, okay, I will keep you in touch in the process, make sure you follow up on your word. What I usually do is I have like an Excel sheet where I talk to somebody, I put in of their company, what do we talk about? And then maybe a month, I go back to that Excel sheet again. I set a reminder and I just reach out to them. Hey, just want to touch base with you. This is where I'm at on my recruiting process. Thank you for all the advice. I'm working. These are the things you told me to work on, and I've done this and this. Just give them an update. It helps to solidify that relationship. So, there's a lot that can be talked about recruiting, but recruiting is very, very important, right? Try to talk to as many people as possible within an organization. For me, when I was recruiting to American Airlines, I don't even know anything about the airline industry. But it's for those conversations, I started picking their lingo, their terminologies. I began to understand, how they think within the industry. It helps a lot to speak to people. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Itunu. Uh, how do you think, this one is for you, Rosalie, how do you think upcoming interns and those also looking for full-time opportunities, what mistakes, I won't say mistakes now, what learning points did you observe? What did you learn during your time? And I believe are the pitfalls those coming behind us should avoid.
Okay. Is this regarding recruiting or like?
Yeah. Well, the general experience during your internship.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think definitely something I learned from during and after my internship was the fact that I did not network enough. I just felt like I don't need it, and everything was just going to work the way I expected it to. And it was a pitfall for me. So I would say if you're an intern right now, try to connect with people and learn what they do. Networking. Outside of your department, like just be curious and reach out, And when you do that, it doesn't just help you build relationships with people across organization for when you need them or not. It also helps your manager see that you're a very proactive person, and then you're not afraid to reach out, to take initiatives on your own and things like that. So that's one thing I'll say. And then with recruiting, I would say that always know what you're like, diagnose your problem quickly. If you're failing, fail fast, but just make sure you're failing forward. Like when it's a cycle, right? It's a whole life cycle. Just try to, as you're going through that cycle, try and identify where you're having problems and fix those things very quickly. Because if you don't, you will be frustrated. You will not get the outcomes you're looking for. You might give up along the way when you're supposed to actually be running the most. And so I'll say it's important to do that. And I said that because like when I started recruiting, I was getting interviews, but I wasn't converting any of them. Sometimes first round, second round, and then I get a rejection. But I definitely got a ton of interviews compared to some classmates who weren't getting interviews. So their problem was probably their resume. So my problem was the fact that I wasn't interviewing well. The moment I identified that, I tried to like figure out what I was doing wrong, because I'm telling you, it's behavioral. First round is usually behavioral. My own stories. What is happening? Why is it like they don't believe my stories? What was happening? But the moment I was able to realize that I wasn't storytelling is very key. And if you don't do it well, you might end up sounding like someone who's rambling. You might not touch on key things that are very important and all of that stuff. So when I noticed what my problem was, I tried to address it, and then I started seeing better outcomes. So I would say that along the journey, make sure you identify whatever your pitfall is and work to correct it very quickly. Leverage your school's career management center and the directors that work there. They are paid to do that job anyways. Then again, to leverage this network and every other person who has been through the process. It can be things as easy as, hey, I have a networking call with this person. This is his job function. These are the questions I want to ask. What do you think about these questions? Do you think I've left something out that I should have added? It can be things as simple as that. So it makes you a more prepared candidate for this journey. Anything else? Yeah, I think if anything else comes to mind, I would say it. But again, like, there is no one way to do this. So this, I'm just sharing my experience. He's also sharing his experience. Be inspired, pick what you want to pick, and then, just run with it.
Itunu, any final, how do you think the mistakes you made, your learning points during your internship?
Okay, thank you. So I just want to buttress what Roslyn has said on networking, because I think it's just really important for us to know that networking is going to can be defining for your career, right? I mean, I started 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago at American Airlines, and what a lady told me, a senior manager told me, Itunu, you need to meet people, network with people within the organization. He said your promotion, your trajectory within this organization is going to be defined a lot by people you're talking to, right? And so from day one, be networking. So even for me now, even for not just within my organization alone now, right? I'm done with MBA school and everything. I'm still reaching out to people, right? I mean, anything can happen. I might say to want to go to tech tomorrow, right? I want to make sure that you're not just looking for people when you need jobs. You're not just reaching out to people when you need to apply. You say you're on Google today, you want to start networking today. It doesn't work that way. You want to start building those connections, right? And so that's what I'm just going to emphasize on that. Know that the space you are coming into is networking. It's a high touch environment, and so you must be ready to constantly, learning what people are doing, talking to people. It gives you visibility. It opens doors, to access, diverse opportunities. That's for me. And so for me, when I during my internship, one of the things I did was constantly, like every week, I was talking to people. And it got very interesting, because when I completed my internship, there was no opening within the role within the organization I interned with, right? But the company itself wanted me to come back, and they were able to place me in a different team. It was interesting because one of the MBAs I interned with over the summer became my manager. So the moment he said we're going to assign a new staff to you, his name is Itunu, it was like, oh, I know him, I met him. So we already had that connection. It wasn't awkward. He was like, hey, you're going to work for me. I'm so excited. I got you eventually. So networking piece is going to very important. And then for me, talking about internship, I think something I learned was about my project was so when we come as an MBAs, we're smart, we are driven, we want to do all those things yourself, but make sure you're listening to your manager. I think I kind of missed that in the first 3 weeks. And then I was just running the project. I felt like, oh, I know this. This is something I've done before. I can run with this. But I had a different, idea of how the project should go versus what my manager had in mind, right? I just realized that when I go in for my weekly meetings, is just there staring at me, right? And then it did not, and then it then now came. I was not like, okay, let's take a step back. What I had to go back. Okay, what's your expectation? What do you envisage? What's the outcome you want from this project, right? And then it was able to, like, okay, I think you're not doing this right, you're not doing this wrong. He gave me that feedback. I went back, did what he wanted, and then it was like, wow, this is what I want. Sometimes you want to challenge authority, sometimes you want to bring your creativity, but just make sure that whoever you're working with, because at the end of the day, your manager is going to determine whether you get a full-time offer or not. Take it or leave it, right? So you want to make sure that you are aligned, you are in sync with whatever your manager or your team lead or supervisor is. I think that was something I learned, not in the hard way, but I learned in the course of my internship, right? And then lastly, I also say that make sure when you're networking, we tend to forget people who are closest to us, your classmates. It's very important that you build relationship with your classmate. That's something I didn't do too well, I must admit, right? Because I was just really focused on, I mean, when you're coming from Nigeria, like focused on, getting that job, getting this done, right? You tend to ignore people who are closest to you. You'll be surprised that, when you get to know your classmate, they could point you to opportunities that you don't even know exist. And I know some of my classmates that I helped them I got jobs. They got jobs through me, through my referrals. And I also know some of my classmates who got jobs from some other classmates, right? And so network your classmates, get to know them better, get to learn about their experiences. You might be amazed what you're gonna find. So
I just add to everything he's just said because he just touched on it. So when I interned at PayPal,
yeah.
by the time I was done with my internship, my org did not have, they were actually supposed to downsize their headcount by about 10 to 15%. So nobody in my group, we were 5 or 6, nobody in my group got an offer back. But then there was someone amongst us who had done like this outreach. He was game on his internet and networking stuff. And then he got placed with a different team in a different part of the organization for a full-time offer. So is really, really key. I mean, I have a great relationship with my boss, so I knew for sure that it had nothing to do with the work I did. And quite recently, after I got my offer, they started hiring for positions, but then of course it was too late. But it would have networking again and being aligned with your manager, I could have easily gone back if I didn't have anything on the table. But then it's so important if you want to recruit quickly and be done with it. If you're fortunate enough to get an internship, just make sure that you're not just limiting yourself to your internal team or your internal organization. Do a broad outreach and build relationships and connections. And then I think the next thing I would also want to talk about is the classmates thing. I actually got this job through my classmates. They reached out to him, he already had an offer. He was like, hey, do you want this? And then that's how it happened. My resume as it stands now is the work of my classmates. I did, and I'm like, hey, look at it. Because to be honest with you, our career management directors are out of touch with what the current market demands. They haven't even submitted a resume in God knows how long. They haven't interviewed for a job in God knows how long. So it's good to know what kind of value those people can give to you and know what kind of value you want and what kind of value you can get from someone else. And so speaking of that, like doing mock interviews with your classmates, everyone is interviewing. We are interviewing with the same organizations. It's like a dozen chair. So questions you have with hiring managers don't have time to always curate different set of questions for candidates you're interviewing with. Your classmate has been through that same process. They ask them those questions, and then you're also gonna know and be more prepared and better prepared if you have those mocks or conversations with your classmates and then interview for those roles, So that's very, very important. That's what I wanted to just add to what you said.
If you don't take anything out of this call, what Rosine just said, make sure you keep it in your left hand, right? Networking, like for me, even all my cover letters, my resume were done by second years, right? Were done by second years, not even the career management center, right? And then even my mock interviews, like you said, they don't have time to go over these things again. It's a lot of time they recycle the same question. So just talk to people, be prepared. Don't operate in silo. You're smart, but you need to rely on people. So,
okay. Thank you guys so much for this. It's open to the house for a few minutes. If you have any questions for Rosalind or Itunu, I do have one. Are there any certifications necessary? Itunu or Rosalind, anybody can pick it up. Is there any certification you had to or when you got your product role, did they require any certification of you?
Not at this time. All I've been told is be a sponge, learn quickly. And yes, that's all I'm doing. But I don't have any certification. Of course, the skills that will come to play when I have to do my job is making sure I understand how to analyze data and interpret it and manage a project and those things. If you do, I leverage LinkedIn Learning a lot for things I don't know. Power BI, I didn't know how to use it before my internship, but the moment I got there, I took up a project on my own, and then I said I was going to use a visualization tool to do that, so automate a process. That wasn't even something I was supposed to do, but I did it, and it became something that was adopted widely. And I was able to learn Power BI really quickly because I used LinkedIn Learning to do it. So I feel like, I think the market also understands this very well, where nobody's expecting you to come with your, I don't know what kind of certifications even exist for strategy, but like, just know how to do, they care about the outcomes, know how to do the job they're asking you to do, and then get it done. Oh, and then one last point I was going to mention when Itunu was talking. When you're doing your internship, ask your manager for feedback. Even if she says that, or he says that, oh, I think everything is going on well, I think you're doing well, press him or her to give you at least something you can improve on. I had this experience with my manager where, like, I was doing my check-ins with her. Oh, is there anything I need feedback? Like, we've been doing this for 4 weeks. What do you think? Like, how am I doing so far? Oh, everything is doing well. Everything, you're fine. You don't have any problem. I like the way you do this. My head was all swollen. Then I told a friend of mine that, hey, I'm getting good feedback from my boss, so it's good. And he's a recent grad. So he was like, nobody is too good or too perfect. Press her and make sure she tells you something you can improve on. So the next time I had this call with her, I pressed her and then she's like, okay, well, if you insist, I feel like you this. I was like, okay, well, my face dropped because I wasn't expecting to hear that. But then it guided me in the subsequent weeks as I was ramping up and trying to finish up the work I was doing. So make sure you get feedback and then incorporate it. That way it shows that you are someone who takes feedback, and then you learn from it and you have a fixed strategy. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. What
Thank
was the
you.
question now?
Final advice.
Okay. I think you mentioned something about certification, right?
Yeah, I asked if there were any certifications were
I mean,
necessary.
I would say skills over certification, right? Go for skills. For example, we all talk about data analysis. It's a basic requirement now. So make sure you're data savvy, right? Whether it's Power BI, Excel, Tableau, ability to manipulate data, process and derive insight it should be a core skill for every MBA. So, I would say do that. And then I think last advice for me was what somebody said to me, what somebody said to us when we started our program in 2019. His name is Mark Consentino. You might know him. He said to us, the recruiting comes first. Every other thing else comes after. Guys, prioritize your recruiting. Forget. You don't want to graduate in May, maybe 2023 or whenever, and realize you don't have a job. It's a difficult spot to be in. So when you have a conflict between class and a recruiting activity, whether it's networking or interview or anything, prioritize your recruiting. Prioritize recruiting. I've never seen an MBA dropout except you decide to drop out, right? And so make sure your recruiting comes first. That's what I'm going to tell you. And second thing is you will get a lot of no's than yeses. Guys, you will network like crazy. There are companies that I spoke to like 15 people and I still didn't get interview. You will network like crazy. People, eventually you still get more no's. All you need is just one yes, eventually, at least one. So you just have to stay focused, stay disciplined, be resolute and tenacious. It's going to all come together. So
thank you. I think we have a question here from Chinyere. I think Chinyere, please go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Tunu and Rosalind. Your session has been very insightful. So I just wanted to ask this question. So lately, everybody's talking about the National Black recruiting that is coming up in September. And I was going to ask, from your experience, I'm sure you would have had an opportunity of attending such recruiting sessions. So what is it to keep in mind? I know you guys have talked about networking, keeping in touch. How prepared can be too much preparedness? How can you be prepared that you say, oh, I'm too prepared for this? Because for those of us that are coming from Nigeria, we're still struggling with visa issues, trying to get ourselves ready. And you're telling us that September we should, start getting ready for recruitment events. So what are the top things to keep in mind as a way to kickstart this process as newbies?
You want to go first, Roslyn? I can go.
Yeah, you go.
Okay, so interesting story. Last 2019 National Black, the week before National Black, in my mind, I was saying I was going to prepare for National Black a week before, right? And that was a week that I had my first son in the US. That week, my wife delivered that particular week. So I went to National Black unprepared. Like I left the hospital the day before I took a flight to Houston. And so I wasn't prepared. That was a week I was applying for roles in the aircraft, in the plane. I was just on a plane house. And guess what? I went to National Black. I didn't get a single interview because obviously I was not prepared. So I tell people that, look, getting F1 visa is the least of your problem. It is the least of your problem. And so don't be fixated on I'm still struggling with. Yes, you need to get interviews and all, but getting F1 visa is the least of your problem. You have bigger fishes to fry, all right? And so now you begin to talk. I know some from Vanderbilt now they've started like having groups where they right first thing you need to do is to make sure your resume is ready to go, is good to go. So whether is you're talking to your CMC, you're talking to second years in your school, make sure resume, start working on your resume, start getting ready for roles. And then also you need to start working on things like today we are in July, right? It's in August. For you, you know where you are in terms of interview skills. You need to start preparing for mock interviews right now. I think sometimes around August is when they begin to like roll out jobs. You want to begin to apply as early as possible because a lot of those companies will start checking from early part of August. They'll be checking like applications to see resumes and those things. You want to apply early enough because they usually schedule interview. You don't want to be like me and wait till the last week before you want to be applying for interviews, right? Applying for roles at National Black. And so what else? So those are more like the things I can say. For me, when I went to National Black, what I took out of that conference was the fact that when I was going in, I was really focused on I wanted to transition to finance because of my banking background, right? But I kind of just realized that recruiters are not talking to me a lot. They were more interested in my sales and my real strategy experience than the finance I was talking about, right? And so it requires that you're sensitive. You have to come up, you have to like your 2 minute speech when you're talking about it, see how they are responding to you, right? And so the way they respond to you will like, okay, this is working and this is not. So those are things you have to work on. Make sure you start working on your resume, you're working on your story, like your 2 minute pitch, because National Black is always rowdy. There's a lot of people. So you want to work on your 2 minutes pitch. You want to start, prepping for mocks and those type of things. Rosalind, over to you.
Yeah, National Black 2019. Oh Lord, I had a blast.
Oh, you had a blast.
I had a blast. It was really highlights of my MBA. Anyway, so when I went to National Black, thankfully I had actually been to Forte conference a couple of months prior to that. And I went to that conference. In fact, when I flew from Ghana and I came to the US, Rochester, the next day I was on another flight to Chicago for Forte. and nobody prepared. My school did an awful job of not preparing us for that 4-day conference. I went unprepared. I literally just walked around the place. Like, then I found out people actually do have interviews at places like that. People got job offers from there. I was so surprised, and it bothered me that I had spent money on this and not to get anything from it. So when I was going for National Black, I decided to do what everybody else who had a successful conference did. I applied for jobs. I sent out messages. There was this button, this portion where you send out short messages to recruiters. I tried to line up 15-minute networking sessions with them or coffee chats. Because of that preparation I did, I ended up getting 3 interviews. So I went to National Black, like, I knew that I was walking into an interview for National Black with Microsoft, SC Johnson, Fisher Price. These were really great outcomes. And the way what I would say is try and make that preparation so that if there's an opportunity to have interviews at National Black, make sure you get a couple of those. So you don't go there joining queues. You don't go there joining queues and waiting your turn to give your pitch and hope to God that someone would listen to your pitch and find you interesting enough to say you deserve an interview. That's more of a gamble than anything. You want to go there with interviews lined up so that you're prepared, and then you can walk away with an offer if everything works according to plan. So, and then when it comes to interviewing too, do your research on those companies. Like, do your research. I can't even say this enough. Just do research. An interview is a special. It's like you made it out of the bunch of applications. So put in the effort of doing a ton of research and having these conversations with these people so that you're only getting positive outcomes and no stone goes unturned. So that's what I'm gonna say. The last National Black they did when it was virtual was very bad. Like, I don't know what was happening there. If it's going to be virtual this time, I hope that it's better and it's not what
I think it's in person this year in Chicago, right?
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, great.
No, it's split.
Oh, hybrid.
No, yeah, it's hybrid. The interviews are in person, but the career sessions, networking and stuff is virtual.
Get those interviews, like, do anything you can to get those interviews.
And exactly, and just make sure you go there in person. I would recommend you go there in person, really. I would strongly recommend, if you can, to go in person, because I mean, it's a different experience, right? You know, you get to interact with those people in person, you know, you can, you know, so try and go there if you can. Yeah.
So preparation wise, make sure you apply for the jobs and all of that, and then get the interviews so that you don't walk into this place with how many people, over thousands of people, and hope to God that your 2 minutes pitch is what does the magic for you.
Exactly right. I mean, when they open the door in the morning, like 7 a.m., you see throng of people trying to get into the door. I mean, it's crazy. So, you know, once you do that work prior to the conference, you're just going there, you'll be in interview booths. You won't be someone like me that was just roaming the entire place. But yeah. So
okay. Once again, thank you guys. I've used out of your time. I'm 6 minutes over. Well, like we said initially, thank you so much, Itunu and Rosalind. I am very, very grateful that we are, as a team, actually, not just me, I'm being selfish with it. We are very grateful that you have given us the opportunity to see further by using your experiences and your shoulders. And also, I would want to announce to the house and to everyone, Itunu and Rosalie are available on LinkedIn. You can reach out to them if, Hosanna has a question. But yeah, you can reach out to them, you can connect with them, you can network with them, especially Itunu and Rosalie. They were so easy to connect with. When I connected with Itunu, I think that was on the 4th of July. I had bangers going everywhere. I knew the guy was having a good time.
Yeah,
It was willing to listen.
yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
So really, you can just reach out to them.
Yeah, and if you're interested in American Airlines, please feel free to reach out. If there's any way I can, help each other, whether referrals or whatever, just reach out to me, or see how I can help. Really, to be my joy.
Okay. Hosanna, do you have a question? Your question.
Yeah, I do. Thank you. Thank you, Rosalind. Thank you, Itunu. So my question is really on the networking, right? I know earlier Itunu said something about when you have appointment with somebody, make sure you're on time, make sure you don't do what, like, don't F up that appointment or whatever. What if due to some reasons beyond your control, like you fell sick, you couldn't get to your phone or even send them a message ahead of time and you missed the appointment? I tried to reach out to them after that time and they didn't reply you, like, you feel bad, right? But they don't reply you after then, and you really don't want to leave a bad impression on that. How do you get to kind of close up such relationships?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say that life happens, right? A lot of times things will happen that are beyond our control. And I think it's just about being um, truthful, and then when you have the opportunity to connect eventually, being able to genuinely articulate that this is what happened or this is what went wrong. I felt sick and there was no way I could reach out to you. And just trust that the person will be reasonable enough to know that we are all humans. These things has happened to anybody before, right? you know and so and you can try your best, and the person might choose not to see reasons with you or might choose not to respond. um that's beyond your control, right? You can't choose what anybody decides to do, right? But just make sure that it's not a pattern. Imagine you recruit with you're networking like with 5 people within an organization, and then you show up late for maybe you sign up to show up for one of the 5 people. Even if the person is saying, oh, the person didn't show up, disappear, I didn't see this person, the 4 people can speak for you and say, oh, Hosanna, she's a good person. Hosanna, she's punctual. We had a great night. She's smart. We had a great conversation. So to look, okay, this is a one-off, right? But when you are speaking to 3, 4 people in a team and it looks like a pattern, that's when it becomes a problem. So I would say that we are all humans. That has happened to me before when I run late into a call, right? And I'm just like, okay, maybe I had a delay, maybe a lecturer stayed over in class, or just something happened, right? And so I think just make sure that you give a heads up if something is going wrong. Like, okay, if you're going to be late, oh, I'm running late, or unfortunately I can't make this call for so reason. Communicate why you can't make the call, and then apologize for that, and then like, okay, if you have another time, I'm happy to meet with you based on their convenience. So it's but at the end of the day, we're all humans, and things happen to us, right? So yeah. Rosalind, you have any experience?
Thank you.
I was late for an interview. I was going through a phase, but anyways, yeah, you just let's say I was a relationship manager, right? And you did the same thing, and you've handled high-level clients where something like this happened before. How did you deal with it? It's the same thing. Like, it's just you apologize, you try to make things right, and even before it gets to that point, I think, like, if you can, try as much as possible to tell people beforehand so they don't join meetings waiting for you. But if that's also beyond you, the only thing you can do is to apologize and hope to God that the relationship is repaired. But if it's not repaired, then that's one lost opportunity.
So thank you guys for this. Thank you so much for making our time, Itunu and Rosalind again. We really do appreciate this from the very bottom of our hearts. And we know that we are going to keep in touch with you guys and reach out. Like Itunu said, if you have interest with AA, you can also reach out to him. I also will reach out about my frequent flyer miles. It's not cumulative. But
as for yes, reach out by all means.
but even Rosalind also reach out to her.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are very nice people, I assure you. But I don't need to assure you, you can reach out to them and find out. Thank you guys again for making it to the meeting today. Thank you so much. We
right,
would also be having sometime next week, and would love you to be here, communicated to you. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.